Okay, this is April the 27th, and we're doing the last two chapters in The Bridge to Terabithia. So, how did you like the ending of the book?
I didn't like it.
You didn't like it? Okay.
No. It's sad.
Yeah.
Too sad.
Yeah, it was sad. But he did kind of make peace with it a little bit. I mean, it's going to take a long time to get over it, but, he's accepted the fact that she's gone, and he's trying to move on. So, that's a good thing. So, did you have any questions about the test that you're doing at the end?
No.
Okay. Alrighty. Let's look at page 38. And we got a little bit of vocabulary. And, a noun is a person, place, or thing. And a verb is an action, something that somebody's doing. So we've got 7 words, and we need to decide whether they're verbs or nouns and tell what they mean. So the first one was have the body cremated. So what does cremated mean?
I don't know.
Okay. When someone dies, they either bury them in a casket where you can see the body at the funeral, or they have someone cremated, which means basically they burn the body until it's just ashes.
Yeah.
And they do that with animals and stuff too, but sometimes people will scatter the ashes, over a field or over the ocean or, something like that, or they'll just put them in an urn and keep the ashes at home. So that's basically to turn the body into ashes by burning it. So that's a verb because that's something that they're actually doing. Okay. Number 2, into the castle stronghold. What's a stronghold?
I know what it is, but I don't really know the exact definition.
Okay. It's a noun because it's kind of a place. It's the place of the castle that is kind of fortified, reinforced, where they're more protected and the enemy can't get them. Okay, number 3 is throat constricting. What does it mean if something constricts?
It kind of like, I don't know, squeezes in a way?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it can seize up, it can tighten up, and that's a verb because it's an action. So it's like his throat is just seizing up and getting tight and to where he can't talk, and he's just, that usually happens when you're either very sick or if you're, having an emotional time and you're crying or you're just really upset. Okay. Number 4, part of a great procession. You hear about procession when you're talking about a funeral procession, or like when the president comes to visit, he's traveling in a procession. Any idea what that means?
Like when the vehicles move in a certain way, like they're lined up, I guess?
Yeah, like they're all lined up and they're in order and they're following each other, right? Okay. So that would be a noun.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 5, into thy hands I commend her. That's a verb because that's actually something that somebody's doing. Yeah. So if they're commending her, what might that mean?
Praise?
Okay, raise her up. Yeah. So they're kind of like, they're giving her spirit. They're talking about Leslie giving her spirit, her body over to God, because he's going to be her protector now that she's no longer on the earth. Okay. Number 6, even the predators. Ooh, excuse me. So what's a predator? You talk about that when you're talking about animals, usually.
I don't know how to explain it.
Okay. It's a noun. A predator is someone or something that preys on others. You have, when you're talking about animals, you've got predator and prey. Prey is the food source, and the predator is the one that's doing the killing, going after the meal, going after the animals. So they're, and they talk about, if you have a criminal they're a predator because they are seeking to kill people, or they're seeking to break into businesses or whatever. So they're predators because they're doing those kinds of things. Okay, number 7, in solemn emphasis. So emphasis is a noun. And what is emphasis?
Like special importance or something?
Right. Something that's important. Okay. All right. Mine I can't get on, so we're going to send it to her. All righty. Questions. What different thoughts and emotions does Jess experience while he and his parents pay their respects at the Burke's house? So they go in there, and it's all kinds of people that he doesn't know except for the mom and the dad. And what are they thinking? What's he thinking? And what's he feeling while he's there?
A lot of different things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's feeling out of place because he doesn't know these people. He is kind of embarrassed, I guess, to be there because he doesn't know how he's supposed to act.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got his mom and dad there. Anything else? Okay. Probably uncertain.
Yeah.
Too, because they don't know. You know, when you go to a funeral or you go to something like that and you don't really know anybody, you just kind of feel weird because you don't know what to say. You know, you don't know what you're supposed to do, and it's kind of a strange thing. I've been in that situation a couple of times. Okay, number 2, Jess expresses his doubts to his father about whether or not Leslie would go to heaven. What does his dad say to comfort him?
That he wouldn't. I guess
Okay.
that God wouldn't do that.
Yeah, he said God's not going to send little girls to hell. You know, and Jess was kind of like, okay, I didn't think of Leslie as a little girl, which, you know, they're both about the same age. They're almost 11, and you don't really think about yourselves as being a child still, but you are, especially to an adult. And you know, Maybelle had brought up to her when she had visited their church, whether she was going to go to heaven or not. You know, she believed in God, and that was what happened before, that we knew something was going to happen, because she said, what's going to happen when you die? Have you thought about it? And so Jess was kind of worried about it because she thought, he thought, well, I don't know what's going to happen to her, and what I've been taught, and what usually is, it's up to you whether you get saved or not. And if you're a baby and you die, of course you're going to go to heaven because you don't know right from wrong. And once you get, they call it the age of accountability, once you know and understand right from wrong, then that's when an age when you should be able to get saved, because you understand what it means, to be wrong or to be right. And, not everybody gets saved at a young age, but, it's up to that individual whether they're ready. Just because you know right from wrong, it means you're growing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're ready to get saved, because if you're not sure what God means and what heaven means and everything, then you're not ready. And only God and that person knows if they're ready or not. So it's, kind of an individual thing, and, nobody can really judge it, but he's not going to send children to hell, All right, number 3, why does Maybelle follow Jess to Terabithia?
Because she didn't want him to be alone.
Okay. Yeah, she wanted to be with him. She didn't want him to be alone. And yeah, okay. Number 4, when Maybelle admits to being scared while crossing the creek, what does Jess tell her?
To not be.
Okay. Was it okay for her to be scared?
Yeah.
Was Jess scared?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he's like, this is normal. It's fine. He says, I'm scared to death too. But what scares you, you just gotta work with it and use that fear to your advantage. Number 5, when Jess recalls Leslie going into the girls' room to see Janice Avery, what does he realize? Because remember, she was going to go in the girls' bathroom because they heard Janice crying. And he's like, well, I can't go in there because I'm a boy. I'm not allowed in the girls' bathroom, so you have to go talk to her. So what did Jess remember about that? How did Leslie react? she was kind of scared, right? She didn't know whether, Janice was kind of a mean girl, so she didn't know if she would just kick her back out of there or what she was going to say,
Yeah.
Okay. So he realized, she was scared. So, everybody gets scared of something at some point. That's just part of life,
Yeah.
Number 6, when Jess returns to school, what has happened that he notices as soon as he walks in the classroom?
That the desk is gone.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's like, she's gone. And they just remove all trace that she was even there. And really, it wasn't that. The maintenance people had done it before school even started, so Mrs. Myers didn't even have any saying about it, and it felt like they were just tossing her aside like she never even was there,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so number 7, what causes Jess's view of Monster Mouth Myers to change? So that was the teacher, Mrs. Myers, and you remember the first day of school, she would smile and she was sweet, but then after that, she was all business, she never smiled. So how did he see her change? What did Mrs. Myers do for Jess?
Hmm. She was sad and she cried.
Mm-hmm. Right. She said, they were doing, I think it was the pledge or something, and so everybody's supposed to stand up, and he didn't move. And so she called him out, said, come out in the hall, I need to talk to you. So he figured he was in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But when he got out there, she said, I didn't have anything to do with the desk being taken away, and that Leslie was a special student, and she would never forget her. And she also mentioned that she had had a husband that had died, and Jess was like, what, she was married? Okay.
Yeah.
And so that shocked him. And she said, I know that she was your friend, and you're going to miss her a lot, just like I miss my husband. So we just kind of have to help each other get through this. So she was, we're very sympathetic to him, and that really surprised him.
Yeah.
Because he didn't expect that. Okay. Number 8, what did the Burkes do now that Leslie is gone? What did her mom and dad do?
I can't remember.
They packed up and left.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, they had the U-Haul, and Leslie and Jess and his dad kind of helped them pack things up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and, her father said, well, we came out to the country for her, and, there's really no reason to stay, so they left. And they were going to leave PT, the puppy, with Jess, but the dad had really gotten attached to him, and so he's like, that's fine, you keep him. Okay. Jess feels that Leslie has left him just when he needed her the most. He said she had made him leave his old self behind and come into her world, and then before he was really at home in it, but too late to go back, she had left him stranded there, like an astronaut wandering about on the moon, alone. What would you say these two worlds? What would you say are these two worlds that Jess feels stranded between? So how does he feel stranded?
No. Exactly.
Okay. Well, he's kind of stranded because she kind of taught him to open up his imagination and to learn how to live a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And now he doesn't have that. Even when he went back to Terabithia, he didn't know what to do at first. Mm-hmm. And it's like she was that spark that he needed to move with. And so he was just caught between that world and reality. Okay. Number 10. In the context of the whole book, what is the significance of the conversation between Jess and his father in chapter 12? So that was second to last chapter. Okay. 11. Conversation here. All right, so After they left Jess's house, he left first, Jess left first after they left Leslie's house, and he ran home. All he remembers is crying and running, and he got the pads of paper and the paints that Leslie had given him, and he took them to Terabithia and he threw them all in the creek because he said, I just can't deal with this. And his father came up behind him. He said that was a crazy thing to do, and he didn't realize his dad was there with him until he said that. And he says, I don't care. And he was crying so hard he could barely breathe, he could barely talk. So his dad sat down on the ground with him, and he hugged him and pulled him over on his lap like he'd done when he was a baby. And he tried to comfort him, and that was when he had the conversation about, that God wouldn't send kids to hell and so forth. So how was that a significant conversation?
I'm not sure.
Well, how were Jess and his dad? Were they close?
Not really.
No. So that was pretty significant because his dad actually showed that he cared and that he was there for him. And, mostly his dad had spent time with Maybelle and Joyce Ann because they were still the younger girls. And, he had wished that he would treat him like that. So when it really came down to it, his dad showed that he cared and he was there for him. So that was really something and maybe a place to move forward with,
Yeah.
Number 11, when Jess brings a wreath into the grove of pines, he says, Father, into thy hands I commend her spirit. Where do these words come from?
I don't know.
Come from the Bible.
Yeah.
I think that was, let me see. Yeah, they're similar. Yeah, when Jesus died on the cross, he said something very similar to that. He's like, here I am. Just go ahead and take my spirit, And what that meant was, he made that wreath kind of as a symbol of her moving on. And it was kind of a memorial of sorts, I guess. And what he meant was, now that she's not here, I want you, God, to protect her because her spirit is with you now. So you're to watch over her and protect her. Okay. So number 12, after he makes that wreath and he does that, what happened? What happened to him? What was he feeling? He felt at peace. Remember, because he just said, well, you've got her in your hands now, God, basically. And so he had some peace because he was feeling, she was going to be protected by God and she was going to be okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, number 13. Sorry. Jess thinks that sometimes you need to give people something that's for them, not just something that makes you feel good giving it. Do you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why?
Well, I don't know.
If you give somebody something that just makes you feel good, then you're taking more of it than they're getting, right? So it's like you, see, how can I say it? It's like you want to make yourself feel good. You want other people to say, well, look what I gave her or what I gave him, what I did, instead of it being placed on them. Instead of you need to give something to them that's going to help them. So you don't want to be selfish about it because that, if it's just all about you, then that's being selfish.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Number 14, Jess recalls the change that has occurred in him since Leslie came into his life. What has changed? There's Marley. What do you think has changed for him since she came around?
Probably a few things.
Okay. I think he had more imagination
Yeah.
and more confidence in himself. because she didn't seem to let anything scare her or bother her. She just went with it.
Yeah.
And so some of that kind of rubbed off on him. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 15. What does he believe he still has to do? And then how does he do that with Maybelle?
Mm.
Okay, well, he knows that he has to find a way to move on. But, Leslie kind of gave him a gift because she taught him things like how to use his imagination and how to grow. So he says, Leslie gave me a gift. She's taught me things. So I need to repay that by teaching Maybelle the same things that she taught me.
Yeah.
So it's like paying it forward. They got to keep it going. So in number 16, in the last chapter, Building the Bridge, Jess invites Maybelle to become the queen of Terabithia. And, he'd always had a special connection with his little sister. I mean, she was not a baby, but she was not an older child. I think she was like maybe 6 or 7. So he could still have conversations with her. And that one day, I think it was the day that they came back from the kind of the funeral thing, that he hit her really hard. And so she was kind of afraid of him after that. Mm-hmm. And so this is kind of a way to make up for that too. And so, he said, do you see all these people around? Look, we're in this magic kingdom, and, everybody says that this is the new queen, and, somebody so beautiful like you is going to be the queen. And she was like, wow, so she's kind of opening up her imagination and thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And so what kind of a bridge is he building between him and Maybelle? So what is he doing for Maybelle?
Helping her with her imagination.
Okay. And he's doing the same thing that Jess did for him, opening up that imagination. Because when Jess came in there with Leslie, she was like, well, can't you see these people? They're just standing around, and you just got to imagine those things. And so he was trying to teach Maybelle the same things. Mm-hmm. Okay, so and what other bridges have been built by the end of the story? So what other things have happened? Anything? Mm-hmm. What about Jess and his father? Did anything change there?
Yeah.
Okay, they've started to get closer, a new relationship. And Jess has gotten closer to Maybelle, and he's wanting her to use her imagination. And so I think he's kind of gained some confidence in himself. And he sees things a little bit differently. So, I mean, it changes you when someone that you are close to dies. I couldn't imagine having someone your age die when you're a child. I mean, that's just scary, Yeah. But, as we get older, people in our lives die. It may be an accident, it may be an illness. There's all kinds of things that can happen. And death is a part of life. But as long as we trust God and, we are saved and we know we're going to heaven, and if those people are saved, then we can take some peace in that because we know we're going to see them again. And it's really hard, it's overwhelming. I know my mom was a Sunday school teacher. I was too for a while. And she had one of her kids, I think he was like 8, and he had went on a road trip with his father and his grandfather, and they were going down the highway, and something happened in their car. They went under a semi, and it killed all 3 of them.
Aww.
And it was like, it actually decapitated the 2 adults. It's like, oh my goodness. Mm. So she went to his funeral, and it was just such a hard thing. And then we had my mom's cousin. They had a little girl. She was like, how old was she? Maybe 3 or 4. and they had one of those old-fashioned washing machines on their front porch, and it was like, you know, you put the clothes through and you take the handle and you would crank it. So she got herself caught in that one day playing with it, and she died. And that was really, really devastating for them because she was so young. And it's just, you know, really, really awful. And then when I taught at Meridian a couple of years ago, there was a child that, the little boy, I think he was like 6, and he was riding the tractor with his dad. And somehow or other, he fell off, and the tractor ran over him. And my grandpa used to do that with me and my sister. We used to ride the tractor down in Kentucky with him. And, you know, you see a lot of people do that, and it is dangerous. But he was in the hospital, and he was okay. And then he just took a turn for the worse, and he didn't survive. And his little sister, she was like maybe 4, and she's like, well, where's my brother? You know, so it was really, really hard on her. And they ended up moving away because of all the memories. And my mom's cousin, she was 16, and the same thing happened to her. And it was just, man.
That's sad.
It is really sad. And you don't think of things like that. And it's just,
Yeah.
but God has a reason and a purpose. You know, he, even though the child may have only lived 2 years or 3 years, he has a purpose for them being there for that time. And he's going to use that experience to help other people, you know, even though we don't understand why. And then you have other people that live to 100 years old. Like my dad's aunt, she was 101 when she died. And it's like, that's such a long life. She had seen so many things, done so many things. And it was just like, wow, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I think the book was pretty good. I mean, I was really sad when she died, you know.
Yeah.
But it teaches you something, and I think it's a pretty good book. And whenever you finish the test, just go ahead and just send it to me. Just send me a picture of it, or, you know, scan it in, or however you want to do it, and we'll get it graded and back to you. And if you have, do you have any other questions or anything?
Nope.
Nope. All righty. Well, I'll talk to you later, and you have a good summer.
All right. You too.
Okay. Bye.